Some states in Nigeria are still feeling the effects of the recent floods that ravaged parts of the country. According to reports, millions have been rendered homeless while the death toll remains in the hundreds. This is the worst floods the country has seen in 10 years. News Central's Bernard Akede is in Rivers State, where he visited one of the flooded communities and the IDP camps, and now joins us live from Port Harcourt. Good evening to you, Bernard. Great job you're doing from Port Harcourt. But tell us, you've been to the community, you visited the people. Paint us a picture of what it's like over there.
Good evening, Kemini. So yes, we are currently in Port Harcourt. We went to Omok. It's a town in Onelga local government, and well, we've seen this the town that we actually visited. It's completely devastated by the flood. It's empty, so to speak. It's a ghost town. The waters had risen to the roofs of some of the buildings, but as of today that we got there, the people we met said that the water had receded a little bit, but still we couldn't go through the waters on foot or even by vehicles. We had to go through a canoe, and with the canoe we were able to touch the ceilings of some buildings. We were able to look into some people's buildings. Apartments completely destroyed by the flood. They still had their furniture in there. You could tell that some people had to leave their apartments in a hurry, and it's very, very sad, very disturbing. The floods have brought with it all sorts of things: diseases, mosquitoes, reptiles. Septic tanks in people's compounds have been broken open, so the possibility of people falling sick if they still remained in those communities is very, very high. So clearly, again, the people had to leave those communities. Power had been completely cut off from this community for obvious reasons anyway. So it's really a very, very disturbing sight when one gets close to the area. It's different, I beg your pardon, from what you see on TV. When you're there on the ground, the effect, it hits differently, basically.
When you say it hit differently, put into words how you felt being in that community.
For me, it's personal, and the reason is 10 years ago I was a youth corper here after my university education. I served in this state and in that local government. The village where I actually serve now, I'm told that I cannot visit that village by road except we go via boats, probably speedboats. But this local government where we used to visit once every month is what I'm seeing now that has been ravaged by flooding. I was even fortunate to meet one of the teachers who I worked with when I served 10 years ago, and he was riding a motorcycle when I met him, and he had tears in his eyes when he explained to me what had happened in the past 1 month, and then what had happened in the village as well, telling me that it's almost impossible to visit. Actually, it is impossible to visit the village by road. We have to go on boat. So it's quite personal for me, and it was quite touching, to be honest.
Now let's talk about the victims of the flood and the shelter where they live. What would you say their conditions are right now?
Now the victims of the flood in this community that we visited have been moved to a primary school called St. Stephen's Primary School. The conditions, of course, like you would expect, are not fantastic. They are in need of several things. We visited there and we could see that the numbers have been rising by the day with more effects of the flood. We have men, women, we have the elderly there as well. We have children who are also there. They sleep on the floor, some of them, because they don't have enough mattresses and sleeping kits. They don't have blankets, they're exposed to cold. They don't have enough mosquito nets. There was a lady who came and showed us her back, and we could see a lot of mosquito bites all over her back. There was also a little girl who we saw who had the same thing around her. They also don't have potable water because there's no power in the area, and then they need petrol to fuel their generators so they can pump water. So it's quite a challenge. We visited the cooking area as well, where they make food. There are people there who were complaining that even though they are appreciative of what the government has been doing and what other NGOs have been doing, the relief materials they got were quickly exhausted, because after the first few days, more people poured into the camps, and the relief materials that they got clearly were no longer sufficient. So they've not exactly been living in the best of conditions.
Right.
Also, which was very, very touching, we were told that 2 people had already put to bed in the camp. One earlier, another one yesterday, and then while we were having a report today, another woman, the third one, was in labor. Sadly, the baby didn't make it. The woman was rushed to the hospital, again exposing the fact that they are in need of medical aid, medical care. Our chauffeur had to drive with some other people to get hand gloves and other sanitary materials to help with the delivery. Unfortunately, like I said, the baby didn't make it. It was a premature baby, but the mother had to be taken in a tricycle to the nearest health center. So yes, again, living conditions are not exactly fantastic, considering the fact that the numbers keep rising.
Talk to us about what local authorities there are doing to make sure that as much as possible people there live comfortably.
So we were informed that the local government chairman had actually put in a lot in place. We tried to see him. We were unable to meet him today. We hope we'll be able to do that. But we heard that he was one of the first responders. He was actually the one who gave the instruction that the school be closed down, that academic activities be suspended so that that school can be used as an IDP camp. He also ensured that environmental health officials were on ground, first of all to clear the bushes around the school, and then to fumigate and to sanitize the area so that at least it will be a little bit habitable for the people, to also ensure that they keep some kind of cleanliness in that environment. But then again, of course, it's never enough. You know, people who have been thrown out of their homes, places that they lived for years, their businesses taken away in the blink of an eye, they clearly need a whole lot more, first of all from the government, before other assistance from NGOs. So yes, the people are appreciative of what the government has done, but they keep clamoring for more.
Indeed, Bernard, thank you so much for the work you're doing. Keep safe. We'll see you sometime soon. Bernard Akede, he joined us from Port Harcourt.